So a lot of folks here are in a sales leadership role, founders of companies looking for their VP of sales or their CRO.
Yeah.
How do you think about hiring that person for that role, knowing that they may have come from things that it wasn't perfect in the past, or maybe their company didn't have to hit that rocket ship growth?
Yeah, that first hire is critical, and I would say there's two kind of contexts on that first hire that I look at. The first question I would ask is, how comfortable are you with your journey toward product market fit? Because lots of times companies will want to introduce a salesperson when they're still in that product market fit journey, and they make the mistake of going out and hiring that like VP of sales who has 400 person reporting to him or her, who hasn't made a phone call in like 5 or 10 years, and that's totally the wrong hire. In the case of being kind of earlier in the product market fit journey, the most valuable elements coming from those first 100 or so sales calls is not going to be the revenue that's generated, it's going to be the feedback from the market, right? You guys probably did your job, you did your market research, you talked to a bunch of customers, but this is probably gonna be the first time that you're gonna have dozens and dozens of dials going out the door every single day, and dozens and dozens of conversations every week with that market. So I'd rather find someone who has the mindset to execute on that feedback loop back to product and the rest of the company, more of an entrepreneur mindset, maybe a recent graduate. I've seen like recent graduates from smart schools with good business acumen do very well in that role, and put less focus at this stage on like building this 100-person team. You're just not ready for it.
Right.
Now, if you're instead at the point where like, okay, we've got dozens of customers, maybe we have a couple of salespeople, it's actually selling, but now we need to work on process development and scale. Now we can go after like someone more in that VP of sales spectrum. The big mistake that I see there is people over obsess over domain experience and over obsess over just that like, I want someone that went from from 50 to 100 million. They over obsess on that, right? And there's two problems with it. I think they obsess over domain experience because as like a founding CEO, you probably have never hired anyone in sales before. Sales probably is a little bit of a big question mark to you, so you're not really sure how to even assess them. But domain experience is really easy to assess on. So for whatever reason, people lean into that. And the other part on the journey is someone who's already been through that journey is probably less likely to want to come and do it again per se. They're looking for that next adventure. So what what I push you toward is, number one, think about your unique buying context. Who are you selling to? How complicated the sale? Is it consultative? Is it transactional? What kind of sales culture do you want? And find someone that came from that sales culture and maybe had a similar buying context. And don't necessarily go for like the CRO or the VP of sales. Go for like the people the layer below, like that sales director who has a couple managers, or even that manager who has a couple reps, because they haven't had their spotlight yet. But they saw the whole story, right? They'd be really good players for you. So that's a good place to look. And in the interview process, don't talk as much about like what they did and who they sold to, but talk a lot about your challenges and your buyer context and the methodology they will set up for you and the culture that is appropriate for you. Because the big mistake that these sales leaders do is they come in and they just replicate exactly what they had at the last company. And they don't appreciate the differences in that context and your context. The really smart ones can appreciate the two contexts and pick the parts that are applicable and innovate on the parts that need to be innovated on. So I see that mistake all the time in these early startups. So hopefully that gives you some guidance.
No, that's great.